We want to provide value. We want to create those spaces, and we want young people to act in their own capacity. In your capacity as a person, how can you create change? That is what Inspire for Greatness is doing. And that is why we named it that.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Oh My Curry Goodness. My name is Hamza Islam, and on this podcast, I talk to some of the most interesting Gen Zers, regardless of what field they're in, about their story and how they became the person they are today. And one of the cool things about this podcast is not only do I get to talk to these people because they're amazing, I get to really connect with them on a personal level because one of the things I really want to do is just see them for what they are rather than who they are, which is they're human beings. And I hope that you, as the listener, take a few things away, such as their story, and in hopes as you continue to write your own story and feeling inspired to do something that you're passionate about, you're gonna have obstacles along the way, but as long as you persevere and work hard, you're gonna do special things. And I also want to let guests know, or you guys know, that it's okay to be a human being, to be vulnerable and honest as much as you can. So I appreciate you guys for continuing to support this podcast, and I look forward to doing more episodes. Now, I'm excited about this week because my guest is Godwin Kevin, who is the founder of Inspire for Greatness, which identifies, connects, and empowers leaders and change makers to take action in their communities. And one of the things I love about Godwin is that he's someone who loves to continuously connect with people who are inspiring and want to change the world for the greater good, regardless of what they're doing. And I'm really glad we got to make this happen. And really got to make this interview happen. And in addition, he's also a fitness coach and personal trainer. So there's no doubt that he is someone who is constantly trying to make people's lives better. And so I'm very excited about this conversation and looking forward to learn more about him on a personal level. So Godwin Kevin, thank you so much for joining Oh My Curry Goodness.
Thank you so much, Hamza. That was one hell of an introduction. I was just like, I was smiling throughout the whole intro. But thank you so much for that. Happy to be here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. And one of the things I really try to do is just talk to the audience about the importance of inspiring people and the importance of just being vulnerable. And so I'm constantly working on how do I make the introduction better. So I really do appreciate it. It's something I'm working on every day. But I want to start from something somewhere random. I've never actually done this, but I really want to talk about your name because I remember somewhere, this was a few months ago, you posted on your Instagram about what your name means. And your name, I think, means helper of mankind. And I do want to ask you if how motivated are you, or how much more do you feel like you pressure yourself or put yourself to continue to be the best person you can be because of the name you have? I mean, helper of mankind, I mean, a lot of people just see a name as a name, but when you see the definition of your name, how much more motivated are you to continue to improve the lives, as I kind of mentioned in the interview or in the introduction?
Oh yeah. Thank you very much. That's a great question. Helper of mankind. I mean, I didn't quite. It's quite interesting because I didn't really look into the meaning of the name up until I don't know earlier this year or last year to see what it really meant. My mom would always tell me it means like winner or something. Well, I was like, oh, let me just Google this. So I was like, Google meaning of God, and boom, it told me helper of mankind. That's very interesting because it kind of aligns with my work and what I'm doing. And yeah, like I am just trying in my own little way to create change in my community and just connect with people because I'm really big on human connections. I'm really big on networking. I'm really big on, you know, one connection could create so much impact. And I've seen that with my initiative, Inspire for Greatness, which we will talk about later on. And just in my personal life and how those connections and those people have been able to help me grow and you know so it's very important, right? So, well, I don't know, like pressure. You talk about pressure. It's like I would say, I mean, of course there's pressure, but I use that as motivation because I try to surround myself with people who are winners too, who are actually working towards their goals, and that kind of keeps me grounded, and I keep trying to help people. Either it, it may be with my initiative, Inspire for Greatness, or with health and fitness. So yeah, it's just I just try to serve and just have those interactions and connections with people because I feel they're very important. Yeah.
One of the most interesting things about my name, so I'm South Asian, but Hamza is an Arabic name, and it means strong, steadfast, brave. And the thing about me, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, I don't feel like I'm that kind of person. And it's not to say that I'm like ashamed of anything. It's more about, for a long time, I used to care about what people thought about me, and if I ever saw a negative thought, then I would succumb to it, and I'll be like, oh no, I feel really unmotivated or bad about myself. And one of the most common things that I do is I just try to remember what my name means, right? Like, because there are going to be a lot of people that will doubt you for what you do, and whether that be podcasting, activism, or just whatever passion that you're trying to reach, you're going to fall into a lot of obstacles. And so it's just a matter of how do you continue to persevere and stay strong. So when I think about my name, I'm constantly trying to figure out how can I be 1% stronger, 1% better, 1% having that positive mindset. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what we do, it's about trying to fight. We're trying to fight for another day, if that makes sense. So that's something that I fall into, which is that, I do care about what people think, and I'm trying to constantly think about, how can I be stronger? How can I not let how can I not let negativity bother me at the end of the day? So, um, it's weird. It's like it's like pressure and motivation at the same time. But I'm glad that in a way we're using our names to try to be the best version of ourselves rather than just seeing it as a name that we tell people, if that makes sense.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, and it's really interesting because you talked about constantly trying to be in a positive space. And there's so much negativity everywhere, on the internet with people, in school or in the work we do. But and it makes it much more harder trying to always be in a positive space. And it sometimes is hard, but I try to create joy in this in like little moments. Either it's like maybe I am I enjoy my work basically, like the work I do. So I if I'm in a negative space, I could just maybe pick up my phone and maybe reach out to a friend, or maybe the immediate environment I'm in at that time isn't one that's like that would kind of like spark positivity. I move, I leave for some time, take a breather, take a walk, going to go sit with nature. In those little ways, I could, get back that positive energy because we try, we try, but sometimes we just can't, by ourselves. So making these little changes, reaching out to someone, sitting with nature, and actually doing work that you enjoy doing, or even if, because I know not everyone is doing, not everyone has a dream job or anything like that, but finding those little moments and really enjoying them and really trying to focus on that. I think that'll help bring up more positive energy, right? So yeah, I mean it works for me. That, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I One of the things I love talking to people on this podcast is about their journey. And I don't want to focus on their destination and all the amazing things they've done, but rather talk about what they had to do to get to where you are, well, what they had to do to get to where they are today. And one of the things that you're very passionate about, aside from fitness and personal training, as we kind of mentioned before this podcast, you are very passionate about entrepreneurship. And this was something that you quickly grew to continue to educate yourself on. And I just want to ask you, because we did talk about the positive experience and negative experiences, and those are some of the things that entrepreneurs do face on a day-to-day basis. What are some of the things you've learned as an entrepreneur? And I know I've asked this question to my previous guest, but I do want to ask from your perspective, What are some of the things you've learned about entrepreneurship that has really helped you in your personal life?
Well, good question. And entrepreneurship, it's a it means a lot of things, right? And my focus is on mostly social entrepreneurship, how I can give back to community, social impact, and youth engagement and all that. But entrepreneurship has helped me grow in a way that I don't think I would have if I wasn't engaged in the activities I was engaged in, or I am engaged in right now. Entrepreneurship taught me how to be independent in a way and think on my own. And I think that is very important, especially for young people when there's like peer pressure and pressure from everyone to do this. And sometimes you're overwhelmed, right? But because I was into the field of entrepreneurship and I had an initiative and I wanted the initiative to grow, I was kind of like put in this space where I had to really think of ideas, be more innovative, be more creative. Creativity. I didn't know I was like I didn't think I had the ability to think on my feet. Like it was just crazy. But entrepreneurship, because of my curiosity, it made me become an independent thinker. Um, when I say logical, somewhat logical, because I run an initiative and I have to my team is always looking up, oh, Godwin, what are we going to do now? What is the next step and all that? So it made me an independent thinker. I think that's very good. And I applied that to, various aspects of my life, with the work that I do and, trying to really find my passion. Trust me, about 2, 3 years ago, I wasn't really into fitness and all that kind of stuff. Like I was just, you know, a regular guy going to school, I don't know, doing all the stuff, the regular stuff, guys, boys do, whatever. So because of I was like, what can I do? How can I improve myself? How can I become better? How can I help people? How can I keep doing that? So because of entrepreneurship, I was able to be a more creative thinker. And also number two, entrepreneurship allowed me to really think massively, like having networks of people, really making meaningful connections. Because I had to do this to build my team with my initiative and all that kind of stuff. And I attend programs and all that. It helped me become a very interesting person. I don't know, people tell me that. I don't know. Yeah, but I feel like I have more knowledge. I'm much more open. I am kind of I'm much more um, keen to learning and connecting with people, basically. So entrepreneurship, it helped me become a creative thinker, much more logical. It helped me become independent. It helped me form and build connections, that wouldn't just aid my initiative, but also those I can form meaningful relationships through those connections. Right. So that is how entrepreneurship has helped me. And that is how I've been able to apply them to my life and my work. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
I love I love what you said about the peer pressure and just constantly making those new connections because I find that one of the things I've learned,
Yeah.
and it's weird because sometimes I don't call myself an entrepreneur, I'm more of a podcaster, but then some of my guests will say, "Oh no, but you're solving a problem by being letting people be open about their journeys and stuff and the way you think about questions is kind of like an entrepreneur in the sense that you have to think differently, you have to think constantly." If there's one thing I've learned as an entrepreneur, as from an entrepreneurial side, is the importance of getting out of your comfort zone. Because similar to what you just said about those meaningful connections, when you first reached out to them, they were just a total stranger. And now as you get to work with
Yeah.
them going forward, it's all, I mean, that happened because you were out of your comfort zone. And so the interesting thing about me is I have taken a couple of public speaking classes in college, and I love those because I love the ability to just go out and speak to people. But one of the things that I'm constantly trying to work on is having that effective communication and effectively trying to, talk to people about your mission or what you're doing. That adds a layer of discomfort because you're going to be meeting people that don't know you, that may say no, there's always that fear of what are they going to say. But for me, I'm constantly trying to figure out how to overcome that. And so that's what I feel like has been really important to me is just that I don't care who I'm reaching out to. I don't care if at the end they like what I do, they don't like what I do. or whatever that may be, I'm going to continuously go out and spread the message of my podcast or my work or whatever I do, because I mean, there are obviously a lot of important things about entrepreneurship, but the importance of getting out of your comfort zone, trying to be this new person in a good way, is really important. And as I know, as you continue on, especially with the personal trainer and fitness coach side, that's something that's really important. Just constantly meeting new people and making meaningful connections that can help you become a better person in the future than today, if that makes sense.
Totally. And I can't give one particular hack to just meeting new people and meeting strangers. It's just something that you just put yourself out there. And this is something entrepreneurship does. It kind of like forces you to have those connections and those conversations with people. Sometimes you're not comfortable because these people can be strangers, right? But you just have them. And then in these moments, right, when you actually make a genuine connection, you actually see how wonderful it is to finally have that one connection over, and you guys work together over a shared goal. Yes. Sometimes they say no, but when you have that one spark, it's always beautiful what could come out, what you guys could grow together from that connection and that relationship. Yeah. So
Speaking,
just,
oh,
I guess, keep putting yourself out there. Yeah.
speaking of,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
no,
I'm
you're
done.
you're fine. I love what you just said. I actually, speaking of getting out of your comfort zone, I do want to talk
Yeah.
about the pressure. And the reason I say pressure, even though you talked about motivation rather than pressure, is growing up, you want to spread your passion of entrepreneurship to other people. And you were just kind of disappointed by the fact that other people around you weren't aware of that. And one of the things I love about meeting people like you is you want to inspire people, you want to change the perspective around people who look like you. And oftentimes that's a challenge because it's like, well, we've never seen this before. How do we know that this is going to be meaningful? And so obviously you've done a lot in the past, and I'm sure you're going to do more in the future. But does that ever, like, what are some of the things that you're worried about, or I guess fearful of, as you continue on trying to inspire people? Like, are there any fears you have personally that even though you have really good intentions, there's always this, I'm worried about this, or I'm scared about this, or I'm whatever that fear may be. What are some of the fears that you have as you continue to inspire people and know that they do have potential in changing the world?
Good question. Man, I gotta think of something. But I think over the years, it has been a fear that I've had has been, being able to make each experience I give to, young people and people participating in our program better than the last. And also really engaging my team I have in my city. I think that has been a fear that's been like, because, when I started my initiative in 2018, I had a team, my first team failed because I didn't have leadership skills. I didn't know, how to organize and coordinate. So everyone just went their separate ways at a particular time. So it didn't work out up until 2020 when I, built a new team. And after taking courses and trying to and learning like this thing called leadership and how to connect with people and organizing and just soft skills and really how to network with people. The second team, the second time I tried, it actually worked. We have a team of over 15. We're getting to 20 people in my city of Calabar. Then we have other team members working in or connecting from virtually from other countries in Eastern Africa and also I think Southern Africa to inspire for greatness, right? So I think a fear that has been this has been the two fears, and every year with our programs, especially one of our programs, which I like to call epic because it is because, because of what it does. It's our mentorship program. We have that every summer where we connect mentors and amazing young Africans from all over Africa to this program where we could share our stories, connect, and grow and create impact. So I'm always pressured to make each experience better. I'm always pressured to make sure the team is, active and doing something, and are not getting tired or are not, fatigued and all that. So it's something I constantly think about. And right now we've launched our summer program, and the team is like, oh, what am I doing? What is my job? What is my task? And I'm like, okay, how do I reach out to speakers? How do I make this thing an awesome virtual experience, right? So I'm constantly thinking of ways to make it better. And I think that the year man, I don't even want to think about it, but so that those are both fears, that's like, wow, I have to make this thing work. Like I have to organize this team. I have to make sure they are creative and actually do something. And in turn, while they work with Inspire for Greatness, I'm in turn trying to I'm gonna make sure that they themselves benefit because they joined us and they're like they want to develop themselves personally and professionally. They want to connect. So I'm constantly pressured to make that work. So they're benefiting, they're learning, they're growing while working with Inspire for Greatness. And on the back end, our beneficiaries of our programs are also, gaining a lot. So that has been a fear. I'm like, oh man, how's it gonna turn out? This event, like, is this speaker gonna? Oh my god! Like, so yeah, that has been one or two.
I'll tell
That
you
has been
something. So when it came to my podcast, so I've talked about it in the past. So this is the fourth podcast that I've made, and I failed three of them because of it just wasn't working. And so when I created this one of my fears was I didn't really have a story. So when I started this podcast, I just told people who I am, where I go to school, and what my major is. But the only thing I really told people that I guess would make it remotely interesting was that I was always curious about learning about people's stories. And I told people that they would get to know me as the podcast continues. But because I didn't have a story and as someone who has a podcast about storytelling, I was worried it wasn't going to go well. But I always thought that as long as I continue to ask curious questions or questions that are interesting, I feel like I will be in the right place and my time will come for me to explain my story. And also trying to be careful not to be too vulnerable or too honest, if that makes sense. Because there are certain things where it's like for everyone, there are certain things that you can talk about and certain things you don't want to talk about because it's just weird or it's too much. And then the other problem I was worried about was whether my podcast would make sense. Like, let's talk about vulnerability, honesty, talking about your journey. And sometimes when you're growing up in different cultures, when they haven't seen things like this in the past, it's almost as if why should we listen to you? So I'm constantly pressuring myself to have the best conversations possible, try to be as open as possible, but it is really difficult. And I'm glad you talked about talked about some of the fears because these things are real. Like the things that you do on the outside, it seems easy, but in the inside, behind closed doors, it's a completely different battle. And so I do hope that people do talk. I think that's one of the most important things is just that there is a certain amount of pressure, and no matter all the successes a person has, or no matter how a person looks on the outside, there's something going on the inside that we just don't talk about because we don't give the space to. And these are the things that are really important to discuss as we continue to kind of write our own legacy.
Exactly. It's great you said this, and it's great you mentioned this because we don't have a lot of spaces where we could, talk about, you know, the process. Now, people are always like the finished product, and we're, less in constant competition. Well, I'm a competitive person. I would say I would. I like to. I pretty much compete, right? I'm always almost like a perfectionist because I want my, my team to be the best. I want my programs to really make impact. I want to make sure people are, really impacted by what we're doing, right? Even though like they are not able to make massive impact, but just a change of mindset, the change in how they think, and change in how they see things, that is enough for me. That is impact for me. So um, that's why this podcast, and I really really love the fact that you asked this questions and people could get really candid and talk about their journeys and it's actually very important because we don't have a lot of spaces like this, you know. That's why really your podcast, you're really doing something awesome. And I can only imagine, you know, more of content like yours and the impact it'll make. So it's really great work you're doing, man. Really
Oh,
appreciate this.
thank you. I really do appreciate it. I work very hard to make sure that my guests feel that way. I want to talk about your organization, Inspire for Greatness, because as I mentioned in the introduction, like one of the things you love to do is be around people that are inspiring, that want to do really great things. I want to talk about what started this organization or what started this organization. And I do want to ask you, as someone who named their organization Inspire for Greatness, who inspired you? Like, not even just this organization, just as a person in general.
Wow. Very interesting question. And the name, man, I think about it too, and I'm like, what was your goal? Like, I'm like, Godwin, what really made you name? How did you come up with this name? But it's a collection of various events and various people. So like, I don't think I can name one person that's like, okay, this person is like my whole source of inspiration. But there's been a series of people who I've looked at and they've inspired me and motivated me to create, to start my initiative and to go along that path of service to people. So, Inspire for Greatness was just born out of my curiosity and my desire to create spaces where young people could become change makers and could impact their society through civic engagement. That was the goal. You know, that's why I started this whole thing. And over the years, we have really redefined our mission and who we are as an initiative. Uh, at some point, we just wanted to, talk to high school kids about entrepreneurship, about leadership, about, public speaking, about what it means to be a change maker. Topics that are not traditionally taught in schools. Wanted to go to those places, visit those high schools, talk to them, and really get them to think in a different way. So the goal was mindset shifts. That is what Inspire for Greatness is trying to really get at, right? So I just thought about it. I'm like, wow, okay, we are having these spaces where young people, at that time it was just Nigerians, where young Nigerians could, speak freely without judgment, without all the stereotypes and whatever. And I was like, okay, we're inspiring people to be great. So either by way of, thinking a different way or, people wanting to start up campaigns and initiatives to create solve problems in the communities. Okay, it's such an interesting name. It's really catchy. I was like, okay, got it. Inspire for greatness. That is how it was born. And I've been using it ever since. And it's very interesting because when people hear about the name, they're like, what do you do? Like, what, like, what is this? What is your mission? What is it about? But essentially, that is what inspired me to, name my initiative Inspire for Greatness. And that is what we do. We want to provide value, want to create those spaces, and we want young people to act in their own capacity. In your capacity as a person, how can you create change? And that is what Inspire for Greatness is doing. That is why we named it that.
I love that. So when I named my podcast "Oh My Curry Goodness," the reason I said that or called it
Yeah.
was
Man, you know,
because
this catchy. I was like, I want tell me. I want to hear it.
so when I name the podcast, so when we hear the interesting stories, we'll say "Oh my goodness," and then as someone who's South Asian, one of our favorite foods is curry. So curry is just like a way
Yeah.
to emphasize the interest in people's stories. So it's like, "Oh my curry goodness." And so one of the things I really hope to do in the future is that obviously people like support this podcast, feel inspired by the stories, but also make that an actual thing. Like people say, Like if someone see like I don't, for example, I'm a soccer fan, so if you see an amazing goal, you say, "Oh my curry goodness!" I'll be like, "That's exactly what I'm looking
Yes.
for."
Damn, I like it. Sweet cash. Oh my God. Yeah, I love it. Great, great.
You
Yeah.
you've obviously done a lot of giving back to your community and helping people and inspiring and changing their mindset. Has there been a experience or a memory that you have that you feel like was inspiring or powerful in any way? In the sense that it was there a person that you met where they used to have this mindset, and then because of the fact that you helped them, they had this different positive mindset, like, and now you feel like inspired in a way. I know that was a really bad explanation, but were there has what are some of the best or I guess not best memories, but what were some of the or have there been some moments where you're just like, because of the work you're able to do, you just felt special, or like this sense of like, wow, I can't believe I did this, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. With Inspire for Greatness, we have many stories about people who we've had connections with, and we've we've seen that we've created impact. So I'm gonna give you I have two stories. I have two. Am I gonna say two stories or two people? Okay. I will just pick out two and just talk about. So one, we have the girl named Mercy. Her name is Mercy. She's South African. And she heard the news of her schoolmate. This was in high school. One of her schoolmates committed suicide, took her life. And Mercy was like, wow, like, this is crazy. At a young age, this person, took her life. What is going on? And she did a research and found out that this schoolmate of hers was constantly bullied and in school, and with no safe space and in constant fear, she had to end things. So you could see that, and this is not just. I felt like this is not just any kind of like this bullying had psychological effects on her and affected her mentally in a way that's like this was on a different level, right? So she took her life, and with this story, Mercy came applied to our program, our mentorship program. And this is the thing with our mentorship program. In as much as it's a mentorship program, we love the whole process of really looking at these people and listening to their stories and who they are and who they are and why they want to, create change. And Mercy's story was one that was very inspiring. And the team was like, wow, this story is. And we brought Mercy in, and Mercy went through the program. And right now, she runs a campaign in our home country, South Africa, that advocates against suicide. So Mercy is one case that it's very, and Mercy continues to do her work. So Mercy is one case that's I've been like, wow, okay, this is something that this was a big issue. She witnessed or she heard of, and she was really, really, or she really, really wanted to do something about it. We also had a case of this other lady, I think her name is Blessing, who was constantly body shamed in her church. You looked a certain way and you're like, so she had a lot, and it was a lot on her psyche and everything. And, she was one of those people who was very, tender, and, and all those, words and all those things to, I mean, I don't just know, but to her community, it was like, the people saying these words feel like they're like they're kind of like helping her in a way. It's like, okay, you're fat, bro. Like you're out of shape. Like they feel like they're helping her, and that's what makes it crazy. But to her, receiving those words, listening to that, having to go through that in a space where we're all supposed to be good, kind, loving to people in a church. So, and it just happened to she just happened to go through that, and was part of the program too, and now she has an initiative around this. So these are two stories of people who that I've actually been like, wow, okay, these people have been with I feel like I have been able to help them, in a way, and really bring up solutions to their problems. And aside from these people, what gives me joy and satisfaction is the fact that when we organize programs, when we create impact, we're looking at the smallest of things, even a mindset shift, like I said earlier, that is enough for us. Or I used to think this way, but because of this experience with Inspire for Greatness, because of this speaker, because of this person in your team, now I feel empowered. I feel like I can actually do something. I was in a bubble in my comfort zone, but you kind of, you know, pushed me a bit to really, realize my potential and what I can do. And I feel like young people sometimes we need that push, we need that motivation, that extra push, someone or that those words of encouragement to actually, do something, to actually realize what we're capable of because we're capable of so many things as young people. And you sometimes we just need something or someone or that spark to unleash, the our greatness. Let's say. So yeah.
For sure. You are definitely part of that generation who is constantly trying to improve people's lives. And I know that our generation, there are so many people like that, and it's great to see. And you kind of answered my next question, but I'm gonna rephrase it a little bit. And I saw a few years back you won the Princess Diana Award, which for those who don't know, it's one of the most prestigious, or if not the prestigious award for young people a young person can get, and when it comes to giving back or whatever that may be. And I do want to ask you, you talked about how you define success, which is even like the littlest of things. If you can change a person's mind in a positive way, that's success for you. And I do
Right.
want to ask you, how do you handle the quote unquote outside noise? So getting the Princess Diana Award is one of the best experiences a person can have. And I know a couple of my friends were recently awarded this year. How have you been able to handle
Great.
how have you been able to handle the outside noise? Like when you received the Diana Award, did that motivate you to be better? Or was there a moment where you're just like, wow, this is great? And then it kind of felt like your motivation just kind of faltered, or it wasn't the same as when you had first started.
I think I was just in awe and just inspired by that community. The Diana Award is, like you said, it's a great award. But quite frankly, when I got it, I was at a space where I felt kind of pressured. I'm not gonna lie because it was like, okay, now you gotta up your game. You like what Godwin, what does this really mean to you? And what does this mean to inspire for greatness? You know, how what is the next step from here? How can we, keep doing what we're doing, right? We've gotten this recognition, right? We've gotten this platform. How can we double our impact? And at a point I was like, oh, like, what's the next step? So I felt motivated and also I had some form of pressure at the same time. I don't know how that works, but that's how I felt at that time. And but in all entirety, I am humbled by the award, and I know, like, for me, it was much of a kind of like a like a recognition, like, okay, you're doing something, we see you. Like we just want that. Like we want because we like you say, we put so much work in this. So I saw the award as that, as okay, we see you, keep doing what you're doing, you have a platform now, take it to the next level. That's how I saw the award as. I think it means different things to different people. And it's a award that recognizes young people. Yeah, but to me as a person, it means something to your friend or your friends. It means something, right? So, but at that time, that is what I felt. But also, when I look around the community and see the amazing work everyone is doing, I have a jolt of energy to keep going, and that motivates me. And that's where my motivation comes from too. That network, like I said earlier. So that's how I see it.
I found when I first started this podcast, I thought my goal was to get as much recognition and awards as possible
All
before I
right.
started interviewing all these people. And the reason being is that people care, like we talked about, they care so much about the destination And so it's like if a person got an award, it's like this person got an award, this person did this. And it's like, okay, so if I get an award or recognition for my podcast, then I'm doing something right. But one of the things that I've really been able to incorporate into my mind, and you were a big, I mean, talking to you, it's definitely helped me in this sense, which is that you shouldn't define your success by awards or recognition, but rather the work that you do. And if you are able to change one person's mind or life or whatever that may be, that is the real definition of impact, right? It's not to get recognized, it's to help people or not help people get recognized, but it's to help people in whatever that may be. And so that's how I define like like when I look at success from my podcast is just, am I helping the guest be as vulnerable and honest as possible? And then for the listener's point of view, feeling that source of inspiration. But that's and why like, and we talked about connections. It's so important to be able to connect with people who have this different mindset where it's like, it's not about numbers. It's not about statistics. It's about just trying to give back each and every day. And I find that the more people I interact with, the less I worry about the quote unquote outside noise. So I hope that
Nice.
more people continue to do that, because if we just care more about awards, then we're really lying to ourselves, and we're not going to actually be the person that, or we're not going to actually practice what we preach or what our organization or work preaches, especially if it comes to impact.
Of course. And that's very important, you know. And that's why I said, you know, the award means different things for different people, because they're at various stages in their initiatives and their journeys. So to me, it meant like a recognition and a pat on the back. Okay, you have a platform now. We see you. How can you take it to the next level? That's what it meant for me. And it made me reflect on the journey, and when I started. And but I would advise young people when you do work like this, there are words, the awards will come, the network will come, but do not lose sense of what the goal is and what you really want, or what we all want to do at the end of the day, and that is create impact in our community. And I think that's very important. And in this world where there's so much and people are so carried away and overwhelmed with so many things, having time to reflect on your journey and really understand why you're doing what you're doing is that's more important, you know. So, you know, all to say, just reflect sometimes and just really, really ground yourself in like your journey and okay, this is what we're trying to do. I'm trying to help people, and this things might coming, but this is what we're getting at. Because if you focus on okay, I want to do this for the awards and do this for this, then you sometimes lose track of the real goal. And that's very important to notice. And I'm reminding young people, y'all listening to this podcast, sometimes really, really think about, you know, why like, what is the real, you know, goal with this or whatever I'm doing with. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, you know, with school, with your work, with your fitness goals, with your family, what am I doing all these things for? You know, what am I trying to get at? You know, and you know, I think you would when you think about that, you would, you know, your reflections might be good. And you might, yeah. So you get what I mean. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt that you mentioned how everyone has like a different motivation, or how they react towards changes, or how a person's reaction, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. There's no doubt that you're one of those people that because of the award, your motivation is more. Now you're more motivated to give back. And I want to end the podcast by talking about the fitness coach and the personal trainer side of you. Tell me,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
did you're going from giving back to your community to in a unique to, I guess, giving back to your community in a unique way. I mean, inspiring you for your greatness and fitness coach have a couple of differences, if we will. But Tell me about what led you to do this. And even though I talked about some of the differences that, changing a person's mindset and inspiring future change makers and fitness coach, even though there are a couple of things, what are some of the similarities you found in those two spaces?
Yeah, it has well, um similarities. I think it just comes down to connection and helping people achieve a goal. Either is to create impact or either is to be healthy and feel good, be stronger, faster, live better. Um, I think it's just the connection and it's just the space that, either the gym creates and also my initiative or social impact creates where people can come together and just work towards achieving a goal. But I feel like, I mean, for social impact, my initiative is a nonprofit, so I don't earn money, but the gym I work in, I earn money. But I still love what I I mean, that's important. So young people listening to this, I mean, you can do your stuff there, and it's not bad to earn money. We all need money, so that's cool. But I think it's just been the connections really. And trust me, I haven't been a fitness coach for a long time, though I've been working on for about 3+ years. I only got this job recently because I finished the training. So I'm still early in the journey as a fitness coach. And I can say that my life has been impacted by it. I'm much more conscious of, my lifestyle and what I eat. And I mean, it's not like I don't have a skill that I measure my food everywhere I go, like that kind of stuff. I mean, I should get it, but for now, it's just like, but I'm trying. It's just the small changes, right? It's, you know, partying may come down a bit. Some of the things I eat, my plate is looking more green than usual. So so yeah, I think this is some of the changes, but it's still like I said, I'm still new into the whole fitness. And also I'm creating content every day. I'm posting fitness content now, I'm working at the gym. So I am trying to you know, get people to come to the gym. And when they're in the gym, we have conversations. We talk about what are your fitness goals, I try to connect with them as people. What are you trying to get at? We work out, we're strong, we have a good time. Then on the media, I post them there in the hopes that I could inspire, friends and people I know to actually hit the gym and see how they feel because you're gonna feel good. Uh, I mean, aside from the work and the pains after workouts, yeah, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. But yeah, I think the similarities is still the connections that I make with people, and but ultimately it's still for impact. You still impact people, still impact basically. Either it's for social or just their lives. So you're still impacting generally. So it's still service to mankind, like my name says. Yeah.
You are the founder of Inspire for Greatness. You're a fitness coach. I know you
Yes.
just recently started this, but is there something else you want to do in the future? I know you are someone, like you just said, you are constantly trying to help communities, help trying to give back in one way or another. Is there something else that you would like to do in the future that maybe you haven't had the chance to yet?
I want to, I don't know, travel more and share stories more. Um, right now I'm in Hanoi, I'm in Vietnam, Southeast Asia, your place. So when you said the stuff about curry, I was like, yeah, yeah, I know, like it's so true. So I've been living in Vietnam for about a year now. I left Nigeria because I had this sense of adventure and I wanted to experience a new place, a new culture. I want to see how people in another part of the world think and how they operate and all that kind of stuff. So I think one of the things I want to do moving on is to really travel more and really explore, understand, because most of the connections I've made in person and also virtually too. But I want to really go out there and just explore and share the stories basically online. So Yeah, I'm all about connecting with people. I'm all about impact. I'm all about being fit and strong. And yeah, just living life every day, you know. So that's what, I'm about. And hoping I can do that more in the future, moving forward. Yeah.
I love that. I really hope you do that because you are someone who's constantly trying to learn and help people think differently. And I do hope that there are more people like you. That's not something I'm just trying to say. I mean, I really do. And it's funny because I spoke to a friend of mine the other day, and I told him one of the things I love about this podcast is just being able to talk to people with an interesting mind that just think differently. And I didn't know exactly what that term meant, but it's like just that ability to be different and embracing those obstacles and going against the current rather than following the current. And so, you're someone who I love talking to, and I really do hope that we
Me
continue
too.
to I hope we do continue to meet in person. But nevertheless, thank you so much, Godwin, for joining the podcast. Please continue to inspire people, and best of luck with Inspire for Change, fitness coach, and whatever you do in the future. You are an amazing person. You really are.
Thank you so much, Hamza. Man, I feel so good after this podcast. Thank you so much for your kind words. And for everything you do, keep doing what you're doing. And yeah, soon enough, people are gonna be saying, "Oh my God, goodness." Thank you, man.
Yes, thank
Thank you
you.
so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you guys like what you saw, be sure to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow the podcast on Instagram at the OMCG Podcast for more information on guests, preview clips, and more. Please continue to support this podcast, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next episode.